我们味道来的，我们是中国现在 China Now with your gang of two, Nan Su, who is the senior investigative reporter for Epoch Times, and yours truly, Michael Olson, who was long ago dissuaded from becoming a China hand by the great helmsman himself, Mao Zedong. Well, let's talk a little bit about how China is finding a way to keep getting its oil. Recently, a Chinese tanker was going through the Gulf of Aden, and the Houthis allowed it to go right through. And the reason it allowed the Chinese ship to go right through their sanctioned passageway there is because they are an ally of China. Now, I got to thinking about the Red Sea there, and as because there's a possibility that there are two ways in and out of the Red Sea. You can go through the Suez Canal, or you can go through the uh, narrow Gulf of Aden there, where the Houthis have a pretty good
Yeah,
stranglehold on
the
that.
bell that bell the Monday, right?
Yes,
Bab Bab Bab-el-Mandeb Strait.
Bab-el-Mandeb Strait. Let's see.
Yeah, Bab-el-Mandeb Strait.
Okay,
That's like similar to another chokehold,
the
similar
chokehold
to
exactly.
Strait of Hormuz.
So, whereas most of the world's ships have to negotiate these very narrow passageways, the Chinese tankers can get in and out because they're on the same side as the people holding control of the choke points. And of course, the choke points are one of the big issues in our conversations with Iran. And Iran's um, proxies, the Houthis, are pretty much following the lead of Iran and blocking our in and out of the Red Sea. So, my question, Nansu, is can't we just use the Suez Canal in lieu of?
Bab-el-Mandeb
Yeah.
Strait? No, I don't think so because Suez Canal its capacity is limited. You don't the all the heavyweight, the
The super
heaviest
tankers, yeah.
yeah, those huge tankers cannot go through there. So it will uh dramatically lower the total capacity that's been shipped out from the Red Sea. So yeah, well, temporarily that's what need to be done, but I think long term wise, I don't I will say Saudi and UAE eventually they have to get involved. This basically that basically
So
uh
they're the ones that are hemmed in.
yeah, they
But
are the
now,
ones really going to be hurted dramatically, right? So but I think the short term wise is just this midterm election. Once the midterm election is over, I think that it doesn't take a long time to really destroy the Houthis. They don't have the same.
they're
They're
not dug
much
in.
lower capacity comparing with Iran.
No. They're not dug in like the IGRC is.
IRGC.
IRGC. One of these times I'll get it right. Iran Republican Guard Corps, IRGC.
Islamic,
Oh,
yeah,
well, that
it's
makes it entirely
it,
different than.
yeah, Islamic Revolution Guard Corps.
Okay. So that makes it a lot different than the Iranian Republican.
Right. This is the most elite force under Iranian regime. You know, they are the Iranian they have their military under their government. That part of the troops It's not their elite force. The elite force is the IRGC, Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps.
It's very interesting because in China, the army does not belong to China. It belongs to the Chinese Communist Party.
That's right.
And in Iran, there is a national army for Iran, but the most powerful army belongs to the Islamic Revolution, I guess. I don't know who it
Yeah,
belongs to.
yeah. So, but well, I think even their normal, their regular military is still tightly controlled by the Ayatollahs.
Mhm. Do you think it was the Ayatollahs that ordered the IRGC to attack Jordan in spite of there being a ceasefire? Do you think it was the Muslim clerics that ordered that?
Well, I will say probably so.
Oh,
The possibility is very high. That all these move, making attack. Think about all these, past the 47 years um of a war against the Americans, right, by the regime. It's a religious war. It's a spiritual approach that they chose to follow, right? So that's why the nuclear weapon it's got a spiritual value by all these people who has this extremist ideological approach.
yes. And the people of Iran may or may not count. Um, but when it comes to the decision-making process, do they even have a vote in Iran? I suppose they have a vote in the same way the
Well,
Chinese
they
have
do
a vote.
actually have they have some sort of a voting uh going on, but the problem is they got all these the entire population so much, deeply brainwashed by that extreme ideology. Uh I don't know what to say.
So
I
with
don't know
respect
what to
to the oil in the Middle East, Iran, and by virtue of its various armies, like the Houthis, like Hezbollah, like Hamas, pretty much have the Middle East sewn up with respect to the flow of oil. It has to go through the Hormuz Strait and the also the whatever it is down by Djibouti. So it has it pretty much sewn up. And those countries in the interior of the Middle East are pretty much landlocked with respect to getting their oil out. So they're pretty much, Iran is pretty much in control. So what is Saudi Arabia going to do?
Well, I think, well, they need to make it. Basically, I think it's a pretty easy job for Saudi to, with the help from U.S. military, to totally destroy the Houthis. I think that
Well,
just
they've
need to
been
be done.
trying to do it for a long time
Yeah.
and have
So,
been unable to do it. So
well, think about that back in March or maybe I forgot either February, March or May, maybe April of last year. We had a what couple weeks of military operation bombing the Houthis. Remember that?
right.
So I think it just needs to be something need to be redone over there.
And well, I think that the Saudis are one of the moderating forces on Trump. Trump says the Saudis are asking me to stop bombing, so I will, and we'll have talks. We have talks in the IRGC start shooting again, And so Trump reacts, and the Saudis step in again. Please stop shooting at the IRGC because they'll know if you don't, then they'll pick on us, and we don't want to be picked on. So I guess it's an issue of resolve from those countries in the Middle East, whether they take on themselves some of the responsibility for dealing with these kooks on the IRGC, or if they don't, they're toast.
Well, that's true. This war really become a testing of will or testing of resolve, if we want to get a job finished. But I think that, the military part of it, it will eventually be done, either prior or after the election. Uh, but however, I think that's now the question is, I believe Trump want to establish basically a whole new platform based on the Abraham Accord in the Middle East. He's willing to give the nuclear energy technology to Saudi, and so the Saudi will sign up for on the Abraham Accord. So therefore, I think it's unstoppable. I think the future, what happened in the next 2 years, it's going to be a new peace frame, a whole new platform based on Abraham Accord, regardless Iranian regime agree or not. What we're going to see, it's short term. There is a bunch of hurdles the Trump administration need to jump through, such as some midterm election issues, some oil price, maybe stock market, turmoil. Those things just need to go through it.
The, I mean, I think you're right, and I think it's also worthwhile to pick up the Abraham Accords and give them a little bit of explanation. What are the Abraham Accords? Well, first of all, you have to look back to Abraham, who was the father of the world's three great religions, um, Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. So all three of those religions tied directly into Abraham. And Trump's putting
By blood,
by
not by
blood.
faith. Yeah, not by faith.
So Trump, by putting Abraham at the focal point of a possible agreement, uh, he is in essence telling the diverse interests of the Middle East that we are all related. We are family, and we should be working together instead of disparately. And if he's able to bring the Middle East into this Abraham Accords fold, wow, that'd be truly spectacular diplomacy, uh,
I think it's a
truly
really,
historical
yeah,
stuff.
yeah. And also, it's going to very importantly, if this thing can be finally set up, with or without Iran, most likely not going to with Iran. Although earlier Trump said the Iranian regime is was
Would be
welcome to
welcomed,
join. I don't think they're going to join unless we have a regime change in Iran. Um,
or the
but
changing of the IRGC.
yeah, so I think that the war or whatever you call it, military operation in Iran will eventually be finished sometime. Not even not this year. It's going to be next year. So Iran, at the end, it's going to be a regime change, or if not regime change, then eventually it's going to become a next Cuba. So the U.S. military has the full capability. It's actually easy. It's not that hard now, because after what first 30 like 38 days of bombing, and then the second 13 days bombing, Iran's military capacity have been greatly reduced. So the wherever the leftover work, it's going to be the easy part.
Well, I'm happy to see your optimism in
Well,
that regard.
absolutely. It will take a long time for them to build the industry,
Yeah.
to rebuild their navy, to rebuild their air force.
Unless China comes in and does it for them,
Well,
gives them the
China
money.
comes in. China will give them some, shoulder
Fired
carry.
missiles, yeah.
Yeah, anti air missiles, and so those things. Well. That's why all these things, after it's established by the U.S. intelligence, by the Israeli intelligence, eventually, Trump is going to have to make a decision to destroy the entire railroad that from Iran connect to China. So just stop all that things coming from China. And now, of course, on the other part, it's to bomb all the ports, Caspian Sea, to stop everything from Russia. So, and then I don't know how extreme it's going to go. Maybe it's a good idea to even ban the entire airspace
Airspace.
above Iran, so that it will just, even though we don't send our boots in a large scale invasion to Iran, but still, it will become next Cuba, basically.
Okay. Well, I'd like to turn now to a story that is an annual story in China. It seems like the country is always beset by flooding, has been for forever.
Now,
And
every year they have this same problem.
every year. Do you know why?
Well, it's they build too many, they overbuild too many dams. That's the problem. They don't, they build too many dams that cause two issues. One is the environmental issue. It's an environmental problem because once you build too many dams, you have too many reservoirs. Once you have too many reservoirs, then the water become an issue because all of a sudden, comparing river with reservoir, reservoir have a lot. The reservoirs, dramatically increase the total surface area of the river. So when you overbuild, you have too many reservoirs, then in the country, then the once you have tremendous amount of water surface, which dramatically increase the evaporation. You basically lost a lot of water just because you build too many reservoirs now, and then it becomes extremely difficult to manage all these reservoirs because think about all these reservoirs. Once they got built, they are run by certain organization, at local government level or the provincial government level or the central government level. It doesn't matter who is running it, they all have economic interests, right? Water is like money. Water is like money, basically. They all want to keep the water, keep the water is keep the money, so they can make money that way. Now, and then there's one thing is it becomes extremely difficult for them manage is nobody want to give out water. And also they have, but the problem is they have no control on the atmosphere. They don't know when the rain is going
When
to
it's
come
going to
down.
rain, right?
And then you have too many reservoirs. So every reservoir want to keep their water in the reservoir. They're not going to let go of the water until they see, oh, there's danger. The water is going to overrun the dam, and they're going to stop. They're going to stop collecting water. They're going to start letting water go, and then um, all of a sudden, you have many, many reservoirs, possibly very easy to be in the same. situation because when the rain comes, you have a whole, especially like a typhoon or whatever storm comes, it's affecting the whole entire several provinces, and all of a sudden, all the reservoirs in the few provinces they all face the same problem. They have too much water to handle. So they are going to, open the dam and let the water go all of a sudden at the same time. So then, the downstream basically become flooded. So that's why they keep happening and happening and happening. And also, when you have too many reservoirs built downstream rivers, river downstream areas, the soil becomes
Right.
really dry. And then when all of a sudden you have a big volume of water coming, you're going to see landslide all over because the soil once it gets dry for a very long period of
It's
time.
hard. It becomes like cement. The
Yeah.
water just runs right off.
Right, right. Well, see, there's a lot of landslide happening, right? And some of the area for the, depending on the water conditions. So it really not the river bed, but the banking area that's like near the water line, So those areas you get a lot of landslide issues, and landslide, mudslide, and now in China, what happened is the communist regime is really bad on this. They basically design so in order to protect those dams, right? Because all of a sudden they have this water running over the dam, causing great danger to the collapse of the dam. So when they're facing that kind of danger, what they did, they have been doing all these years, they'll go to find, upstream, find a place, they will explode, they will destroy the dam themselves, let the water, to reduce the danger that's going to pose to the downstream dams. So reduce the pressure of water pressure, total volume of water, which will impose to the downstream dams. So now they don't even tell you.
Nope.
Supposedly, if you're going to uh uh you know they call 分洪, just like branch out the water on the upstream. If they want to do that, what's really bad is they don't tell you. Now, why they don't tell the people living, behind the dams in the upstream? Because the people being trained. I mean, every year they just keep coming back. They when they have issues, maybe not every year, but maybe every 2 or 3 years. The government will, destroy the dam, let the water come out, and then they will uh, flood the whole area. So the people train. So once they are trained, by the situation, they know what the government is coming to do. So when the water mark gets very high, people they don't sleep in their house. Day and night they stay on the dam to protect the dam. It's not protecting the dam, but it's to protect their own property. Because once the water comes out, they flood the whole area, the whole villages, and they try to protect it, their dam by destroying by the government. Now that may only make the situation even much worse. Why? Then the government now, they don't notice anybody. They just come out at the midnight. They will destroy the dam. Well,
Boom, blow it up,
they either blow it up or well, there are certain
or
ways
open the
they
floodgates.
open the dam for flood, right? So, but then this becomes serious the problem because even they don't notice everybody, before the hand, you know, then everybody's sleeping. They're sleeping in their home, and all of a sudden the flood just come, and then there's no time for them to restore. There's no time for them to get out. So That no, except the property loss. Now you're talking about hundreds of thousands of people die. That's what's happening in China. It's just a ridiculous system.
It happens every year. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about one of the greatest natural disasters in human history as a consequence of exactly what Nansu has been talking about. So do stay tuned. You're not going to want to miss this. Right back.
It's time now to repair or replace your roof. Hi, folks. Warren Knox here of Knox Roofing. Well, we install leak-proof and fire-proof roofs. Roofs that look nice with a lot of choices of colors and styles. Gutters, skylights, insulation, and roof decks. We only install proven products with warranties unmatched by anybody. Financing is always available, and we have discounts for veterans and seniors. Do business with Knox Roofing, and you'll also receive a free Knox Garden Box. The number to call again is 831-4610634. Thanks, folks.
It's high time to celebrate the opening of the new Hook Outlet Dispensary, 1129 Mission in Santa Cruz. Get in on the opening fun and really low prices on the Hook's unmatched selection of top quality medical and recreational cannabis flower, vapes, drinks, gummies, and concentrates. The Hook Outlet is now the West Side's source for finest cannabis at the lowest prices. Get in on all the opening fun and low prices at the all-new Hook Outlet. HookOutlet.com for details and deals.
Charlie Hong Kong is here to nourish you with our healthy noodle and rice bowls, abundant with local organic produce grown in nutrient-dense soil, as well as soups, sandwiches, salads, and our special ginger lemonade. All are welcome to enjoy our patio or to go. Order in person or online, corner of Soquel and Seabright. Charlie Hong Kong, nourishing our community one bowl at a time.
我们来的，我们是中国现在. China now, friend or foe, war or peace. Ladies and gentlemen, in August 1975, the Banqiao Dam and 61 other dams throughout Henan province in China collapsed following the landfall of Typhoon Nina. The Banqiao and 61 other. The Banqiao Dam collapsed. The water rushed out. 61 other dams downstream collapsed as well. Oh my goodness. 3 million acres were inundated, including 30 cities, and the estimates of the death toll up to 240,000 people were drowned. That is one of the greatest human and environmental disasters in history. Why does it always happen in China? I have a theory, and it is based on the North Pacific Gyre. What is that? It is the circulation of water throughout the northern Pacific Ocean. Picture a map of the Pacific in your mind and see a circular flow of water clockwise, starting at the top up by Alaska. It goes down the west coast of the United States into Baja. It turns west and cycles all the way around to the South China Sea, where it circulates, where it goes up again, all the way up to Alaska. And that is the North Pacific Gyre. Now, here in California, that gyre produces the California Current, which starts up by Canada and Alaska, and it comes down the west coast, bringing cold water. And as that water brings that cold water, it's full of nutrients for sea life, and it keeps things cool in coastal California. Now, and how many hurricanes do we have in California? None, because of that cold California current taking that water. Now, as that water goes through the Central Pacific and then through kind of the fringes of the South Pacific and up towards China, what does it do? it heats up. And so when it gets into the areas of the Philippine and South China Sea, you have a body of very warm water, which is where those tropical typhoons come from. I lived through one on a Navy ship in the South China Sea. I saw green water over the flight deck of an aircraft carrier. That's how high the waves were. Oh my goodness. And those storms essentially are tossed right into China, head on, right into to South China. Just and when they get stuck in the interior of China by atmospheric conditions, they just drop water for days on end. And that's why China always has flooding. And that's why Mao Zedong, when he took over, uh, when the CCP took over, the first order of business was build dams. And they just built dams like crazy without really knowing how to build dams. And so we end up with a situation where there's some pretty rickety dams throughout China. But it's that North Pacific gyre that essentially delivers an annual typhoon dose of flooding to China. It is just something that China has to learn how to live with. Kind of like here on the east coast of the United States, we have to learn how to take our hurricanes as well, because the North Atlantic gyre, we're on the other side of the clockwise motion of water. So on the east coast, that gyre is delivering a current with warm water that's heated up in the Caribbean. And that's why the east coast has the hurricanes. Nansu, am I making any sense here?
Yeah, I'm not expert on that. I'm just thinking, wow, that's tremendous amount of knowledge I just learned.
Well, and it explains a huge part of the geographical problem that China has always faced throughout its history is the flooding, because that North Pacific gyre just is bringing in these typhoons one right after the other out of the Philippine and South China Sea, and they just spin right into China like a big bowling ball of typhoon. Boom. And so it's just a condition of China. That takes us to the Three Gorges Dam. Will the Three Gorges Dam hold?
Well, they designed to hold. Then also, if it's not holding, then what they're going to do is they're going to just destroy the dams along the river on the upstream of the river, and then let the water flood and destroy the people, destroy the community.
And
That's how they're going to do.
and if they do destroy the dams upstream from the Three Gorges Dam, won't that overfill the reservoir, the Three Gorges Reservoir, to the extent that it can't hold that water?
No, no, no. They are destroying the dams. Three Gorges Dam, it's across the whole river, right?
Right.
Now, there are different kind of dams that will have been built upstream, but that's along the side of a river, not across the river, right? So when they see the Three Gorges Dam, it's going to be in danger. So on the upstream, they will destroy those dam built along the river. So let the water, branch out
Oh, okay. So
to
they're
flood
like
that. That's
circuit
what they have
breakers.
been doing. That's why I was talking about. They do that all the time, That's why the people are trained that they are going to do that. So that's why so though now when the water market is up, those areas, the people residents of those areas, they will stay on the dam day and night, and and
Okay, that makes sense. Now I know what you're talking about. So the dams are parallel to
that's
the
right,
flow of the
parallel.
water
That
instead of
parallel the
perpendicular.
water, they destroy
Okay.
the upstream dams that's parallel to the river. Let the
Okay.
water branch out, so the lower the
Sure.
dams at the reservoir that's across the river at the lower stream will not, suffer too much pressure. That's what it is.
Wow. Okay. So they're like circuit breakers for the Three Gorges Dam.
Yeah, yeah, they do that all the time. That's why you see all these kind of a protests that they never stop. Last year they have the water upstream of Beijing and Xiong'an, the second capital, the ghost capital built by Xi Jinping, in order to protect Beijing, Tianjin, and Xiong'an. The upstream, they created all these flood areas because they basically purposely destroy the dams and let the water out, and
Okay.
it's like tens of thousands of people just lost their homes. They do that all the time. This is a communist regime. Nobody can do anything to them.
Right. Because they're all their primary concern of the Chinese Communist Party, as it is the Iran or the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. The primary purpose of both organizations is to survive and control. That's it. And
That,
the people of those countries don't count.
yeah, that's why we talk about that like what was tribes, right? Is the vegetable they cut it and then you grow again.
Or
They cut.
chives, right? You chop the tops of the chives off, and the chives keep growing.
Yeah, they will come back to chop again, and then that's what well, that's why the Chinese people in China, they call themselves tribes. It's like it's when the Communist Party need them, they will just come harvest them, and then they probably will grow again, let them grow again, then they will for sure they'll come back to harvest them again. That's well, anyway.
But in looking, and the reason I started thinking about the North Pacific gyre, its impact on China, was because I was doing a show about the food chain of the California coast and why it was so rich in sea life. And then I realized, of course, that the California current brings this real cold water as part of the North Pacific gyre. And then I thought, my goodness, what does it do to China? Because China's on the flip side of the current's cycle. It's the water is going up from the hot water of the equatorial areas. So it's bringing China year after year after year, forever, these incredible typhoons. And so when you look at the history of China and see that it's always trying to cope with these monumental floods, you realize it is always going to be coping with these monumental floods. And it's just the way of the geography and the environment of the earth.
Well, they can do it in many different ways. They don't have to, overbuild so many dams. It just make no sense. Uh, well,
But they don't have to, but that doesn't mean they still won't have to deal with these never-ending typhoons.
Well, if they actually study the environment, right? They don't care. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like
Well,
we have all
it is
these
what it is.
great environmentalists here in the United States. They're thinking, uh,
If they
by
build
pushing all
windmills,
these environmental issues to China, then we're going to get away. We're not going to get away. We still all live on this earth.
that's
And the
right.
whole environment, you gave the worst regime in the whole world to let them deal with your environmental issue. You think about how much love you're going to give to the earth. That just ironically, that's the way of our environmentalists thinking of solving the problem.
Well, okay, let's turn as we're focusing on China and some of the issues that it has to deal with. Evidently, it's still having to deal with COVID-19. As recently as this week, a report is claiming that the outbreak of COVID-19 in mainland China rose from a low level to a medium level in the week past, and this is according to the latest data released by the Chinese health authorities. Now, what do we know about the data released by Chinese authorities, Nansu?
Well, basically they have a CIA report, right? They have CIA report basically identify on a very very early stage that the COVID-19 was a lab leak, basically. Unfortunately, that I think that's going to be the conclusion.
Sure, and
And Fauci, I don't know why, but I think Fauci totally screw up, basically.
well, from my research early on in the whole thing, my first realization that something was amiss was when I worked with a artificial intelligence specialist named Jakob Appelbaum, and we traced down the picture of the bat soup that was released at the beginning of COVID. Do you remember that picture, Nuncio? They put out a picture of a bowl of bat soup and said this is the reason that China has COVID, is that people are eating bat soup.
You're right. Yeah,
And
that's
I
on the
knew
early
of,
stage, right?
yeah,
That's
the
on the
very
early
early.
stage.
And I never knew of any bat soup on the menu of any Chinese restaurant that I've ever been in.
They probably have, but I don't think it was from the bat. Because from very early stage. I mean, that was like in February of 2020.
Yeah.
I was already on the radios talking to Americans. Hey, the pandemics are coming. Uh, and then
Well,
we have people calling and saying, "Hey, COVID. It sounds like only Asian people are going to get it, right?" So, um, we
well,
talk about all this.
I had COVID in November of 19. And I didn't know what it was. It was unlike anything I've ever had before. I don't get a lot of colds, knock wood, I get very few of them. That was a really weird cold. But at any rate, uh, Jakob Appelbaum and I took this picture, and he did a internet search for this picture and learned that the picture came from a press release that was issued out of Beijing. So somebody in Beijing released this photograph and said, "This is where the COVID-19 is coming from." And so Applebaum continued his search with his photograph, and then learned that it came from a Indonesian restaurant. And in Indonesia, they actually do eat bat soup. So Jakob called up the Indonesian restaurant and said, "Is this a picture from your menu?" And yes, it is. That's our picture. So this picture of bat soup actually came from an Indonesian restaurant, was released to the world out of Beijing, claiming that the COVID-19 came from people eating bat soup. So it was like a total misdirection.
Well, the key here is why do we believe what the Chinese Communist regime telling us, right?
Or our own regime, which was then headed by Dr. Anthony Fauci.
Well, I think it is just the part of the wishful thinking of the naive Americans that they just blindly believe whatever the Beijing tells them, right? Uh,
Well, look at the story we covered earlier uh, today about the how the C100 Club invited all of our people in the mainstream media, at least the liberal mainstream media, to come in China. And that program stretched from what, 2006 to 14?
yeah,
So
at
we
least
were,
at least to
so
2014.
all of those mainstream media thought leaders, these journalists, were well primed to accept whatever the CCP had to tell us about the COVID-19 outbreak.
That's right. Yeah, that's I remember back in uh, 2000, actually, in the end of February, before the first lockdown, which was what on March 15th, when Seattle was locked down. Um, uh, that's like a 2 or 3 weeks before that. So I was in Washington D.C. I tried to take as many radio or interviews as possible, and to talk about the coming pandemic, and we talk about the lab leak, and we talk about the suspicious actions done by Wuhan and Institution of Virology. We talk about all that. At that time, it was just like people always say that's conspiracy theory. They say this is conspiracy. Now, all these years pass by, even by today, I think some of the people still thinking that's conspiracy. Wake up, Americans. China, it's our enemy, not our competitor.
You
That's
remember what question we asked when we were starting to do our China Now shows? Our question with respect to COVID-19
right.
was did it leak or was it leaked? And I still don't know the answer. Did it leak from the Wuhan Virology Institute or was it leaked from the Wuhan Virology Institute? Was it an accident or was it on purpose?
Right, that part, we probably can never find out until after the collapse of communist regime. But we do know, see, we do know we do have records showing that the doctors in Wuhan, at the end of December of 2019, they already start alarming uh, their friends and relatives. There was another SARS. They thought it was a SARS coming back, and they all arrested. 8 doctors arrested, and then they were forced to sign documents, stop spreading rumors before they were
And I
released.
think the
By
lead doctor was heart attacked, wasn't
yeah,
he?
no, no, he died because of COVID.
Oh,
Uh,
okay. He was
yeah,
COVID. Yeah.
yeah, he did. He died on I think it's February around February 10th, and he died because of COVID. And then on January 18, and there's this like a thousand families banquet. Remember we talked about that
Yes.
in
Yes.
Wuhan, and then on January
Wait a
20,
minute. Wait. 1,000 families get together
right,
and
Pala,
have
right? They
a banquet together.
Right, the Pala, big Pala, community Pala, right? And then
And this was right at the top of the COVID pandemic, right at the beginning of it.
Right. And then on
1,000
January,
families together having dinner.
that's right. And then on January 23rd, they locked down the city of Wuhan. And 2 days later, on January 25th, they sent the Chinese military's top bioweapon expert, Dr. Chen Wei, who was a major lieutenant, and take over control of Wuhan Institute of Virology, and then they locked down all the flight on January 23rd from Wuhan to every other city in China. But however, they let the flight leaving Wuhan to the world continue until the almost until the end of January of 2019. That's what they did. Um,
They did what they could to spread it around the world,
that's right.
whether it was an accident or on purpose.
That's right. And also in March of 2020, the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Zhao Lijian sent out a, a message, a tweet from his Twitter account, and twice making statement that COVID was brought to China by American military athlete who went to Wuhan to join the military war game in October of 2019. So that he dared to do that. So that's what we talk about. I mean, you just brought back that everything we talk about that ever since the very beginning of this thing.
And here we are, right? And here we are, reports of it exploding again in China. Oh my goodness, here we go again. Well, it was always in the interesting part of that was before Wuhan, it was in the University of North Carolina and the office and the laboratory of Dr. Ralph Barrick, where he and Dr. Shizhen Li, the bat lady of Wuhan, were conducting gain of function research on COVID um, viruses.
Yeah, she published the article, right? She
Yeah.
published
So well, that's
on the Nature magazine. There's
yeah,
one of those most prestigious scientific magazine. And
and
he
it just
published a couple articles, and then we talk about that. We talk about it from very beginning. In
you heard
January
it.
of 20. I'm sorry, February of 2020. We talk about all that, and then we talk about the missing personnel of a bad lady Shizhen Li's team. In her team, there is a research assistant who now was widely believed that was the patient zero
Patient
of
zero. Yeah,
COVID. And then we talk about it ever since the very beginning. Until today. There are still it's like what 5 6 years, more than almost 7 years of people still thinking that was. Some of the people still don't believe it. Although most of the people start believing it, but still people still thinking we were spreading around the conspiracy theory. But we have nonstop talking about all this for all these years. Well, we just come on, guys. We need to realize the biggest threat of our children and grandchildren are from China, from CCP.
Chinese Communist Party. That's it for us today. This has been China Now with Nansu and Michael Olson. You heard it about it first, right here.